Welcome back to the Nakamoto 101 sessions with Chisel and Doge. This is section 5 of the Bitcoin Whitepaper, Network. And we thought it would be a fun old time if we just read the network steps and had Doge comment upon them as they're written in this section. So the steps to run the network are as follows. 1. New transactions are broadcast to all nodes.
Yeah, so whenever someone wants to send Bitcoin to someone, that transaction is sent to the network and everyone gets it. So it doesn't just go to one place, it goes to every node on the network.
2. Each node collects new transactions into a block.
So as these nodes are receiving transactions, they're basically putting them together and saying, this is what will go in my block if I find it.
3. Each node works on finding a difficult proof of work for its block.
Yeah, so they're trying to make that block. It's not free. They've got to do the work, and hopefully they're the one that gets it.
4. When a node finds a proof of work, it broadcasts the block to all nodes.
Yeah, so the same as with transactions. It's just, you take the pile of transactions in the block and you say, hey guys, I found it. And you pass it back to the whole network, and everyone gets it.
5. Nodes accept the block only if all transactions in it are valid and not already spent.
Yeah, so when you pass your block off, the next person who gets it's going to check it and make sure that all the transactions have never been spent before in previous blocks and that you didn't do any sneaky tricks to try and get them to accept it. The node checks everything.
And 6. Nodes express their acceptance of the block by working on creating the next block in the chain using the hash of the accepted block as the previous hash.
So the nodes are going to see that they have a new block and they know that it's valid and others are going to have it. So they're going to move the work they were doing away from the previous block because this person found it instead, and they're going to start working on this one to try and build from the end of the chain.
Congratulations, you have time chain network. So after this listing, Satoshi goes into what needs to happen if 2 new blocks are discovered at once. Can you describe how tiebreakers work in terms of the longest proof of work chain?
Yeah, so it's not uncommon even today, maybe once every month or two, for 2 blocks to kind of be found really close together within a second or two and get broadcast out to everyone. Now what ends up happening is about half the network sees one block and half sees another block. And they each kind of start working from their own sides. At that point, they're not exactly in sync, but generally what's going to happen is the next block is going to be found by one side first. And it's going to be a higher number. So when it gets around to the other side, they're going to say, hey, I'm working on this block, but you have that other one that's longer. Your chain is longer over there. I should join yours. And the nodes kind of default to just joining the longer chain. And that makes sure that any tiebreakers are usually resolved within the next block.
And when this white paper was written, miners weren't explicitly mentioned or mentioned as like a separate category from nodes. You'll have noticed that throughout the steps to run the network, just nodes and their activities are described. But nowadays, there are some types of Bitcoin nodes that don't actively mine, and in fact, a lot of Bitcoin nodes don't mine. Can you explain?
Yeah, so when this was written, this was before Bitcoin even came out, and when it was that small, anyone who was on the network, in the early days would have also been a miner, just with a regular computer, having a chance at 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. Nowadays, what you see is about 3 different user groups. You have the user group that it's mostly mobile phones, where you won't have any sort of personal connection to the network. You'll use your phone and whichever wallet you're using, you'll usually be connecting to one of their nodes when you send your transactions or receive them. Our next group is people who actually still run nodes but don't mine. So they'll just kind of have one in their house or for their business. Now what that lets you do is verify all your own transactions and that everything's good, because with Bitcoin, everyone has the same ability to check everything. And our last group is, of course, the miners, who have become a very specialized user group who seek out cheap power and cheap equipment and space to try and be as efficient as they can so they can use as much energy or as little energy as possible to do the most work.
That makes sense. So that covers the 5th section, network. Thank you very much, and see you next time.